Yeah, we just lead into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cold open, so.
Yeah. So I saw this Twitter prompt, and there are a lot of like film Twitter prompts that are engagement bait, like I was kind of talking about before we started recording. But this one seems kind of fun. But the gist of it is, before it's like someone's saying like, I feel bad for kids who don't know what it's like pre-streaming services, because they never really got to pick those one or two movies they had as a kid to define their personality off of. And I thought that was a fun thought experiment, because I can definitely think of a few movies like from my childhood, and I think more so adolescence, that I would like sort of define myself off of. So I was curious, based on that prompt, I guess, what movies would you pick for that? If you wanted to go first, or
Were there any? Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if you don't know the person, but were there any examples? Because, like, I definitely know.
I feel like someone
like,
put like Milo and Otis.
Okay. Like, I definitely have a handful of movies or shows or whatever that, like, you know, those were the ones that I just watched a million times. Is that what it's asking, or is it like what kind of affected me the most?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, which ones? Yeah, because it does use the phrase like, you know, base your personality off of. So one that sort of,
that's what's throwing me off.
You know, affected, because it's like as a little kid, not as much. Like I watched like a shitload of The Great Mouse Detective. So that's like one of those movies as a kid that I was like obsessed with, watched a ton. But then again, I wasn't like walking around pretending to be Ratigan. You know?
Right.
I was really into Vincent Price as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
That or like like Homeward Bound movies, kind of in that wheelhouse, were like the ones that we watched incessantly.
Okay. I mean, it's cliche, but I guess it's cliche for a reason. But like the OG Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah,
Watch that
I wondered if that was gonna be it.
Very regularly, and definitely influenced my, like, an early influence and like interest in movie making, I guess.
Yeah,
like getting into that. But then, in a different sense, Oliver and Company would be another one.
Okay.
That I know I watched a ton. That I was probably like, man, those are some cool dogs, or something like that.
Yeah, is that a live action with dog actors, or is that a cartoon?
It's cartoon. It's a Disney animated. It was
Okay.
like sandwiched right in between, or maybe it was right before right before the Disney Renaissance. So it's pretty forgotten, I would say, in Disney's catalog.
So it's like right before like Lion King, Little Mermaid, that sort of big boom of those ones. Okay.
I think it was the one directly before Little Mermaid.
Oh man, that they probably felt ripped off. They're like, oh, we were so close to being in the lexicon. We could have been a ride at Universal Studios or Disney.
Right. Yeah. Disney. Yeah.
I think as in like an adolescence, like in those early teen years, I think that's sort of more so where I got those movies that were like, this is who I'm going to be now. And it's kind of corny. But I mean, obviously I've talked about like Monty Python.
Right.
And like my dad showing me Holy Grail. So I think Monty Python is like one half of it. But the other half was the 2004 Tom Cruise vehicle, The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
I watched that movie incessantly.
Really?
I thought it was the coolest shit, because I watched The Last Samurai and I read Rurouni Kenshin, and I was like, I'm basically a scholar. I'm a scholar about the feudal samurai era. I know all about this shit. Nice. But like, that movie was so cool to me. The soundtrack was cool. You know what? I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm probably gonna think that it still holds up.
Last Samurai? I think it's definitely got its fans. But I know, kids around our age were like fucking loved that movie.
Yeah.
That was one of those where it was like, we were like the age where,
it just hits.
Okay, that's making me think more like, I guess Dragon Ball Z would definitely be one of those. Just totally obsessed with it, and also that's what got me into. It was my gateway anime, as I'm sure it is for
a lot of people,
kids. So I think that's pretty significant. And then like stepping stones from that, Spirited Away, my first Miyazaki, and my first like, wow, anime can be like not just wacky, it can be like serious art. And then Akira, kind of in that same vein too.
Mm-hmm.
Two major like movies that have just stuck with me. I wouldn't say I watched Akira quite as much because it really fucked me up as a little kid, I think too.
Heavy,
but it was significant for sure.
Did you know, and maybe we've talked about this, did you know that I think on like some of those early Miyazaki movies, and I think it might have been specifically Spirited Away, when they came over to America, the producers it was the Weinstein Company.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what Miyazaki did?
I think
it's one of the hardest moves you can do as like a film producer. Director.
Think I've heard of this story before, but go ahead.
Because apparently
forgetting.
Harvey was very into like editing and cutting things from movies because he's the producer. I don't know. He loves movies, and apparently Miyazaki sent him a katana, and the note just said no cuts.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. I thought that was sick. And then he also said, "Now seppuku yourself, you piece of shit." I think Miyazaki was an early hater.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So hey, always on the pulse. He knew something was up.
Have you seen the clip from? I haven't seen the full movie. I want to, but it's from the documentary like about Studio Ghibli. It's called like The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness or something like that.
Oh no. Okay.
And there's a clip that kind of got like circulation like outside of like, I think it was one of those things that was posted on YouTube and people don't know it's like from this movie or whatever. But it kind of got traction when Earwig and the Witch was coming out, the CG Studio Ghibli movie, which he didn't have a part in. But basically he's visiting this company that makes CG animation, and I don't know if they were like showing him a CG representation of one of his movies, or if they were just showing him like a tech demo, a general thing. Yeah. And he fucking murders them. Like, it's nuts. He's basically says like, this is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. It like spits in the face of art and animation. It should not be allowed to like continue and and like it's dead silent, and people are just like, there. It like cuts to a dude, and he just kind of like staring at the table in front of him. Like, they were like, you got to think these people are like, oh, we're this up and coming, we're trying out this new thing, and we get a room, we get time with like one of the most
guy who
legendary
probably
directors.
Inspired them all to like get like the dude who probably got them into the field of animation. Yeah, he's like, you're shit. You've always been shit. This is dog shit.
Yeah. So I would say if I saw that as a little kid, that'd probably be pretty inspiring too.
Well, was it Miyazaki's work that was like sort of upscaled and CGI'd to look more modern?
I don't know, because like I said, I haven't seen the movie yet, and in the clip it just is like his response basically.
Damn. Because I do feel that, like, the sort of impulse to make everything 4K. Why not make it 8K? Incredibly like unlimited FPS to the point where it looks unnaturally smooth. But that means it's good. We have to like upscale everything to the maximum. Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, well, this is just uncanny valley like gobbledygook. Yeah. Like I totally like, I would take the old school 90s, the way that like Miyazaki's movies looked back then over all that shit now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I can only imagine as him, who's probably someone who's had to like hand draw cells of animation, sees this and is just like, no, this is not the way of the future.
Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to There Will Be Duds. This is episode 84. And I am your co-host, TJ, a.k.a. J Spot Jack Cheese, and with me, as always,
I'm Nick, a.k.a. Dr. Funk on Twitch.
And as always, we watched a movie. That movie this week being The Hidden Fortress from 1958, directed by one Akira Kurosawa. It is a Jidaigeki movie that follows. I guess it mostly follows two peasants, named Madashichi or something and Tahe. I watched this a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm not gonna remember any of these names.
Okay, the two peasants. It follows two peasants as they kind of mill about and continuously fuck up, and then they run into a general of one of the clans that's kind of warring in the area that they're in, although they don't know that he's a general, or they don't believe him. And then basically they get roped into escorting the general and a princess who also is under secrecy. They don't know that she's a princess, but basically escorting them through enemy territory to get to like their palace,
home base, safe territory. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of a big action adventure, feudal Japan, and it is also like one of, if not like the primary blueprint for Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Show George Lucas the blueprint.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say it, but as soon as I said blueprint, I was like, fuck.
Yeah. Did you watch this on HBO?
I did, yeah. Oh yeah, shoot, I forgot. I have this, but I forgot to grab my...
Oh, you forgot your little stand?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very pretty movie. And the transfer, I'm assuming it's the same as like the Criterion transfer, looked really good on HBO. I had to remind myself that this is like a movie from 1958 while I was watching it, because some of the action scenes were like really, really good. And this is kind of an example, I would say, of like upscaling and like making something a little bit more smoother for the better. I would say this isn't like we got to make it 8K and 200 frames per second. But like I did notice, I think some of like the action shots, the way that they move, like the sort of fluidity. I was like, oh, this looks contemporary. Like it was wild. Like especially that beginning scene when like the two peasants are kind of walking with each other and just insulting each other.
Yeah.
Shitworm is my favorite insult now. I love it. It's like, yo, you shitworm. But there's like the part where it's like, I think an escaped guy comes running through, and they're like, these two dudes on horses come in and just like eviscerate this guy.
Yeah.
And like that was the first time I noticed like, oh shit, this looks really good. And like the fluidity of the camera work to be able to do all that kind of shit is just, it's crazy what they were able to achieve from like 1958.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like I think that's like Dune Part 2, just I mean, Akira Kurosawa is a very I'm trying to think of how I've heard him like described as like a benevolent dictator or something like that. Like he is somewhat of like a Stanley Kubrick, but not as much of an asshole, I guess.
Yeah.
But like very, he wanted his shots to be perfect, basically.
Yeah, there was like a Letterboxd review that I saw that referred to him as like the lord over he like lorded over the set, and was basically he had a vision, but and he wanted to make sure that vision happened.
Yeah, And it is cool just seeing like, just like you said, just like how well this is held up. And I thought I love that, like, there's so much. Oh yeah, before I move on, I was thinking, because obviously the two peasants are C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yes.
And I was thinking, like, it's funny because you know, R2-D2 only communicates in bleeps and bloops and stuff. So I was like immediately thinking like, oh, R2-D2, I'm gonna
it's
now
being
be thinking,
censored.
Yeah, I'm now thinking that, like, in there, because one of the I think that Star Wars opens the exact same way. You get the crawl and the shot of the spaceship, but then I want to say the first shot interior is the two droids walking, so it's the exact same. And then, like, after that, they go down to Tatooine and they're walking through the desert and they're just arguing. And I'm like, oh, so I'm gonna now be thinking every time I watch Star Wars that R2-D2 is just calling C-3PO a shitworm.
Your face is ugly. You're a shitworm.
Yeah.
You're...
And then a lot of stuff happens in like the first like 20 minutes of this movie, because they're like on the road and they're just hanging out, and then I think they're trying to, like, I can't remember what they do, but then they get captured, and then they have to work in some mines, and then there's like an uprising, and there's like that shot with like hundreds of people, like coming down the stairs and stuff. That shot was really cool. And and then like they escape from that, and there's just like so much like back, and they're just kind of being thrown around, and like they're just like these kind of hapless like nitwits who are just getting caught up in all this different shit and pushed around by the plot. And that's kind of like basically the whole movie. That's their role.
Yeah, they're kind of Forrest Gumping their way through this like conflict.
Yeah,
where it's and I like that as a narrative device of, you know, obviously you have like your heroes, like you have the you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Princess Leia analogs coming up, but I feel like for the most part you're with the peasants a lot, and you just kind of see their thought process and their reactions to things, and it's just like you experience the broader story from the perspective of these two guys who really don't have any stake in it other than be alive and also get some gold. Yeah, and that's like all they care about anyway, so, you know. Yeah, there's a few times where I was like, you know, okay, maybe now they get it. And and then it's like, they're like, well, we could turn them in and then get the gold. And it's like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, once the main conflict had resolved, you know, the general and the princess and them, they're like, oh, they steal the horses, and then they're kind of on that hilltop, and they're like, there's our place. Forgot what they call it. And then, you know, and then you cut back to the peasants, and there's still like 5 to 10 more minutes left. But it's, you know, it's the falling action. It's just kind of like resolution. But there's like a few different like scenes and few different like ending beats where each of the scenes end, and I was like, I'd kind of be okay with the movie ending at any one of these points. Like they're like, oh, let's go back and get the gold, and I was like, okay. And then they get arrested, and they're like, oh, now we're gonna be executed, and I was like, okay, I'd be okay with it ending here too. And then it's like, oh, it's actually they were captured by, you know, the good guys. And I was like, like it fluctuates between them. They're like, oh, let's stick together, da da da. And then as soon as the horses show up, that's one of the things, right? The horses show up with all the gold, and then they're instantly like, oh, well, I get these ones.
Yeah.
And you just get that one.
Yeah, and it calls back to the beginning when they initially find the gold pieces. It's like, well, I get both. I found both. He's like, well, I opened the wood, and they just, you know, they're bickering all the time.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean. Like, I would have been okay with them like before they found the horses, and they're like, oh, let's be friends. Or if like it had just ended when they found the horses, and it just like ends with them bickering there in the middle of the field or something like that. I don't know. But it decides to end on them resolving. But, you know, who knows how long that lasts. but they get their
Right.
one piece of gold, and the one guy's
Yeah.
like, "You can hold on to it." And
Yeah. Yeah, they finally have a little bit of growth right at the end.
yeah, in
After
like
they
the last
after their
seconds.
yeah, their lives have been threatened who knows how many times at this point.
Yeah.
Being a peasant back then would have stunk. That would have been so shitty.
Yeah.
I thought there's like an early scene like before the uprising. I just thought they were all dead bodies. I didn't realize they were all sleeping like out in the open on top of each other. I was like, Jesus, are all these people dead? It's like they just leave them out on the streets, and then I think that's like right before they kind of like spring their attack. They're all like laying there, and then they all just get up with like logs and sticks and just start beating the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Himbo Daddy Toshiro.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Like-
every movie he's in. He's yeah.
The first time you see him, I love his character reveal when they're kind of in this weird little quarry area and they walk by and you just see him
Just
off in the
standing up
distance
there.
like that. And they look up, they're like, oh shit, all right, well, let's go.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And then he's just kind of following him from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
But why is everybody in this movie wearing booty shorts? Everyone in this movie is.
That's the fashion.
I'm not complaining, but
Hey,
just
they are more covered up than they are in other
oh
like
man,
period pieces. Yeah, Toshiro Mifune in Seven Samurai is basically wearing like a thong the whole time, pretty much. Down there.
hell yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of, he basically has, it's not the same like entrance as far as like how the character is, but that's basically how he gets involved in Seven Samurai. Is like you have the main group of people already kind of like on their, on the plot, doing the plot of the movie, and then he basically just shows up and he's like, I'm inserting myself into this group now. I'm part of this group. It's a much longer process than Seven Samurai, I'll say, but
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of like mirroring that, which I thought was funny.
There were a lot of fun phrases that I liked. A lot of sort of little wisdoms, if you will. But the one that I wrote down was like, sometimes Moss can be smart.
Oh yeah,
Like
Yeah,
when
that's
he's
a good
talking
one.
about like the intelligence of the two peasants. He's like, well, I was gonna kill him, but they had this really good idea.
Yeah,
I feel like there were a few
how
more.
He keeps them, yeah, or that's why he keeps them. Yeah,
There were like
funny.
a few more little quotes that people had about, I don't know, like the nature of life or people. I feel weird because I don't feel like I have a ton to say because it's like a pretty straightforward action movie.
Yeah.
It
is.
But I mean, I will say there were a few moments of like really great Kurosawa staging and blocking. I wouldn't say as many as like, a movie like High and Low,
Yeah,
but there's some really cool little set pieces. I laughed really hard at the sort of like Darth Vader analog when they kind of pass. I think it was him, maybe it wasn't. There's like the scene where they pass through and there's like the one dude and then like the five dudes sitting behind him. And it's when they pass through, and I think it's at that point they have like they're carrying all the wooden sticks and the horses.
I think I know the part you're talking about. Yeah,
But there's there's a part where like he stands up and the other five guys stand up in like synchronized with him, and then he sits down, and then the guys all sit down with him at the same time. It was just kind of funny that they all just kind of moved it was like very fluid how they moved.
yeah, yeah. I definitely. I mean, I will say I don't think many movies, period, in the history of movies, have as good a blocking as High and Low. I
Yeah.
think that like for Kurosawa, that or Seven Samurai, have like the most like you're gonna get where you're like that like, whoa, that was a good shot, or that was like really well blocked, like per minute. You get the most in that. But yeah, there's definitely some certain. I think maybe because this was just more of there's a lot of people walking, just like
Yeah, it's
walking
like-
down the road. There's a lot of action scenes, so it doesn't like lend itself to more of
Not
those
a lot
kinda
of like
shots.
kind of standing around and like talking while other people are doing other things in the background.
Yeah, right. But
there was a good amount of that, I would say, in like the big extended fight scene between the general and like the Vader character with like the spears, and like watching everyone in the background kind of move and like as they're circling each other, they just kind of like, you know, kind of respond.
Yeah. I will say that was a thing, and like that could have been because I did read that this was kind of I don't know if this was fully influenced by the studio or whatever, but basically like this is his, like, this is a little out of his wheelhouse as far as like, I'm gonna make a fun action adventure movie. Like, it's way more silly than, not that his other movies don't have jokes at all. I mean, maybe the ones that we saw, because the ones that we saw were pretty serious. But like, you know, there's comedy in Seven Samurai or even Yojimbo and stuff. But this is definitely way more silly. And I think this is kind of a, okay, I'm going to do one for the studio so that I can do one for me again. You know? And with that, I wonder if this is one of those compromises to be like, oh, you know, to have like a long action scene. But like, that was kind of like a criticism I had, was like, I felt like that I enjoyed the fight between Toshiro Mifune and the general guy, Hyoe. I remember that was his first name. But as far as like pacing, it like killed the pacing, and it was pretty long. It was a pretty long fight. And I kind of like the idea of him, like, you know, chasing those guys down and then ending up in like a more serious situation, but I just feel like it should have been quicker or resolved,
or maybe a different weapon, because like spears are kind of boring.
Yeah, that too.
Because he had a katana. Why didn't you use that? It would have been so much cooler as a samurai movie. Come on.
Yeah.
It kind of made me think, and I guess I don't feel negatively about this scene in this other movie, but it reminded me of it. The extended brawl in They Live between Roddy Piper.
I kind of thought of that too.
Where it's just like these two dudes beating the shit out of each other, and then he sticks his arm out and he picks him up, and then he's just like, and they start fighting again. And like, they go down the alleyway, and then he's in a trash can. He's like, "You're gonna listen to me," and then it's like 10 minutes. Because I think this fight scene in The Hidden Fortress was about 10 minutes.
Really, was it that long?
Because that was the only time in the movie where like I kind of like tapped the remote to like see how much longer was left. It was like an hour like 29 or something like that, and then it was like an hour 39 when the scene was done, and I was like, oh shit, that was like, it was long. It was a very long fight scene. Yeah. Cool moments, but kind of just dragged it to a halt.
Yeah, and that it's just that it's so long for something that's like incidental almost. Like, I guess it does play into late, like the Darth Vader character or whatever comes back later.
You know, he's got the scar on his face, and he's like, you should have killed me. I wondered if that was going to be a thing. I learned that from The Last Samurai about honor, and you're supposed to.
I was gonna. Okay, let's do our historical Japan scholar hats on. Because I think I was able to determine the period that this was in. Because Kalia asked like what time this was. Like, I'm not sure, but I figured it was probably either early Edo or late Sengoku period, because they have rifles in this, which
I noticed that.
Which they do. I know they do in Seven Samurai, because that's actually a big element to Seven Samurai, is basically advancing technology. Like guns kind of starting to make samurai irrelevant, because you know, what's a sword going to do against some guns? And that's like a central theme of, or one of the many themes, I don't know if I'd say central theme, of Seven Samurai. And that's late Sengoku. I know that. So I'm thinking that's around when, so that's like like early 1600s.
Yeah.
is when, maybe a little earlier, is when rifles were kind of introduced there.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because like The Last Samurai, that's another big thing, is that because Tom Cruise goes over as a general, but I think
I feel like that's
Custer is referenced.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's like Civil War time, like American Civil War time.
I think it is,
there.
which like the 1800s. That's like Meiji era.
It could be. So
1860s?
Meiji is part of Edo. It's like Edo is kind of like the overall. That's the Tokugawa shogunate is kind of the establishing thing that created the Edo period. Meiji is one of the Meiji period, or Meiji Restoration, was like part of Edo. It was like a subsection, I believe. I might slightly be talking out of my ass, but yes, Meiji period is like 1800s. I definitely know it is in there.
Yeah, because I know that's a big thing where like, because Tom Cruise is like this decorated general who's haunted by his past, and he goes and like, you know, Pocahontas basically. He's like, oh wow, these savages are actually kind of smart and cool. Like that's his whole thing. Yeah, and he goes up against like the American army, like in the end, and like they all have guns and shit, but. Who would have thought that a white dude was the last samurai?
Yeah,
that's where I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah. I really liked the back to this movie. I did really like the one of my favorite scenes was the fire festival. It's like much better than the modern Fire Festival.
I wrote that down. I was like, Fire Fest.
Yeah.
Wow, they even had one back then.
But like the song that they sing during it, that kind of comes into play later. I was like, that's cool. That seems like that would be a lot of fun. I want to do like an old timey festival like that.
Yeah, I like how Toshiro Mifune was like, dance, come on, we gotta dance.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, all right.
Yeah, and every time it cuts back to the two peasants, they seem like they're in pain almost. They're just like...
They're dancing, but then they keep looking over at the fire because they know that the gold is in there.
Yeah, that's right. That's why they're...
That was like the funniest part. They kept like... They're going around in a circle and they're like...
yeah.
My gold. Yeah, easily. I don't know. I think the two peasants kind of gives you also like not like a frame of reference, but you're like, oh yeah, I'm poor. I don't have any gold. I can, you know, like a grounding characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are. I mean, they are the funniest aspect of this movie, I would say. Like, especially, I mean, even early on when they get to like the hidden fortress. The extended scene of them trying to climb up the hill and they just keep falling. And then as soon as I saw like how long they focused on them climbing up the hill, I was like, there's going to be a hidden entrance that was like much easier to do.
Right.
And sure enough, like Toshiro Mifune, like he's like, they finally get up the hill and he's already down there. And they're like, what the hell is this? And he's like, oh yeah, no, come this way. And they're like, why didn't you tell us sooner?
I like that reveal isn't instant. It's not right when they get up there, because like they get up there and then they see the building and they're like, oh, there it is. There's the thing. Now we gotta find a way. And then he just walks out. I think like after.
And he's like, what are you doing up there?
Yeah.
What are you idiots doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Those mountains look like. Yeah. I could feel that like strain, like it kind of like had the same sense of like climbing up like a dune or something like that. Just like one
it's like
step
unstable
up, 2 steps back, basically.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt when we were shooting Bloom 2 summers ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like trying to make sure no sand got in my camera lens while also like trying to traverse up the side of the dune, because our track record for cameras and dunes is a little dicey.
At least one.
At least one. But that was Chase.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Allegedly.
I think it was, but it was my responsibility at least. But was I the person holding the camera when it got the sand in it? No. But
My next note was these hoes ain't loyal, referring to the peasants.
Yeah. No way.
They scheme so much.
Did you see? Or you might have seen him in the credits or something like that. Did you see Takashi Shimura's cameo? The main guy from Ikido.
He was like one of the guys in the mountain.
Yeah.
No, he's got a. I recognized him almost immediately because he has such a sympathetic face that looks like it's about to burst into tears, like at any given moment. Like I'm waiting for him to do the on the swing set Ikaru, like
that's whatever that song is that he sings.
Yeah.
I guess that there's another parallels, like ending your movie, kinda, it's not the very end of either movie, but like a sort of sympathetic song, the princess singing the Fire Festival song again, and winning over the general, the other guy.
The princess character was she spoke in one tone, and it was very fast and aggressive and angry.
Yeah, she definitely was like playing like Princess Leia.
She's supposed to be like a rebellious tomboy, like.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because like it was kind of late at night when we watched this, and I was like, oh, I can watch this with headphones on if you want to go do other stuff, like it might be loud. Chloe's like, oh no, it's fine. Like I like the way like Japanese sounds. Like when I've watched other movies, she likes the way like the phrasings and how Japanese is spoken.
It's like a pleasant language to your.
Yeah, it's not like German, where it's like sharp and aggressive. But I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then so I played it on like the speakers, and then every character's yelling in this. Every character's yelling at each other. And I was like, yeah, it's a beautiful language, but they're yelling at each other the entire time, and the princess is just like, oh, no! Like that the whole time.
She's like yelling, and
it's through gritted teeth almost.
Yeah, and then Toshiro's like, he's got his like grunty. Okay, now we're gonna do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut the fuck up. Another regular I was gonna say is, so you have Toshiro, you have Takashi, and then one of the peasants who I capped right away because he's another one of the samurai from Seven Samurai is he's like the chubbier one, I guess. Neither of them are like overweight, but he like had the facial hair. I don't think the other guy had facial hair.
The other guy had a very unfortunate haircut.
Yeah.
Well, like the top of his head was like shaved, but like it wasn't shaved off. Like it was like he had a buzz cut, and then the rest of it was like long and in a ponytail.
Yeah, that was a style too back then.
Yeah. I told Chloe, I was like, hey, how about that? If I lose my hair, I'll just grow the back part out and give myself a top knot.
Yeah.
She's like, no, absolutely not.
But I could be wrong, but I want to say that guy was like Kurosawa's most regular actor. Like he was in the most of his movies, I think. But yeah, because he was in Ikiro too. I don't think he was in High and Low though. That one had a smaller cast, so.
Oh yeah. No, he worked with. I'm looking at his thing. Yeah, Yojimbo, Sanjuro.
Okay, yeah.
Seven Samurai.
This says he was
Ikiro.
in 11 of his movies, so.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like as far as the movie itself, it is pretty. There's not much like depth to the story, There's not many. You can't really like talk about themes too much. It's a fun like action adventure from a different time.
Right. One of the best directors working at the time. Yeah, it's like if it'd be like if Stanley Kubrick had to make like a
Spartacus,
like an action,
Or,
I guess so. Yeah.
I guess like later in his career though, like, he never really. Well, Full Metal Jacket's a war movie, but there's not like there's that much. I guess, fighting. You get the thing at the end with the sniper, but
Yeah.
I think there's like that and like one other like action scene in Full Metal Jacket, maybe like war scene.
Right.
So I guess even with that, he makes like a war action movie, and yet it's not really. He's still doing his like Kubrick thing, and like, yeah, but I'm gonna make it about something else.
Right. Yeah, my last note was, I guess it really was just about the friends we made along the way.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. I think this one was it's something like this is the one that like finally made Kurosawa go like make his own like production company after this, or maybe this was the first one made with that or so. But he still used Toho as like a distributor, so he was still tied to the company. But
yeah.
All right, we good for scores?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, it's, it's Kurosawa, so it's like automatically gonna be like good in my eyes.
Yeah.
Very clean camera, like deliberate camera movements, and like I said, blocking not as like much to like gawk at as there is in some of his other movies, but you still have that controlled hand behind it that makes you go, wow, this has a director.
There's intent.
Yeah. That said, this might be, and I don't know, I'm sure I'll check it out again eventually. This might be like my least favorite one of his that I've seen. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy it. I still haven't watched a Kurosawa movie that I haven't liked at least a bit. I don't know how to put it. So I go like 7.5 with this one, because it's, yeah, not quite an 8, but more than a 7, so 7.5. Yeah, a lot of fun. Just like I said, like there were moments like that fight really dragged, and like if you cut that out or shorten that a bit, and then maybe like a couple other bits here and there, and you could have got this under 2 hours. It was kind of lengthy for just like how simple it was too, but fun characters. Mm-hmm. I appreciated that, how comedic it was, and yeah, 7.5.
Yeah, I'm right there. I was thinking 7. A lot of cool set pieces, a lot of cool camera work. Very, very, yeah, it might be the transfer or whatever, but it felt contemporary in a lot of times where you're just like, I was like, damn, is this just like a modern movie shot in black and white to look old? Like it looked so good. Yeah, characters are fun. It's the funniest Kurosawa I would say I've seen. But it's like, like you said, I think Martin Scorsese kind of gets lumped in with this, like one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. This definitely feels like his one for you, where it's like, all right, I'll make your action adventure movie. I'm the Seven Samurai guy. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah. I'm still gonna put Daddy Toshiro Mifune in little booty shorts and just like a feral look in his eyes. Yeah, and I would say, yeah, that was really the shining star of the movie, where like the fun characters and like Toshiro Mifune just giving it his all no matter what. So yeah, I'm feeling a 7. I would be curious to watch like the OG Star Wars now with this in mind. Yeah, of just like, oh yeah, the C-3PO and R2-D2. It is. I was reading that apparently, like the original Star Wars draft was even more similar to this movie before, like, because in this movie there is no like Luke Skywalker or Han Solo. Yeah,
it's just Toshiro Mifune is just kind of like the guys in the group.
Yeah, he's kind of like an amalgamation of all of the heroic. Oh, I was gonna say that there were a few times where the music, I was like, even the music sort of
Sounded like-
sounds like.
I know. Yeah. There was a couple where it was like one of the first like kind of action scenes or whatever. There was dudes on horseback, and it sounded a lot like one of the themes from Empire Strikes Back specifically. Like, I don't know about, John Williams is a different man than George Lucas, but it's possible. Maybe George Lucas was like, hey, I'm trying to like emulate this movie. Go watch it.
And he threw some like temp music in. He's like, kind of like this.
Yeah.
Because there was another song. It was more of like a kind of a downtime scene in the movie. But there was another song that reminded me of, I don't know the name of the song, but it plays in that scene after I think Luke is talking to his uncle, and then he kind of goes and he walks outside and he sees the two sons.
That's like the Star Wars theme.
Yeah, and there was definitely a few moments where it kind of had that da-na-na-na-na-na. Like, I was like, this sounds very Star Warsy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the music, I would say the music was pretty cool. I liked a lot of it.
Yeah, I forgot to think about that. I just found a section on the page that says the only notable major characters who were not drawn from Kurosawa's film are Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, whose character arcs were inspired by academic writer Joseph Campbell's book The Hero with a Thousand Faces, as well as Chewbacca, who was based on Lucas's Alaskan Malamute dog.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, here's a fun YouTube speedrun challenge. See how little of a clip of a piece of Star Wars music you can put in a video, and see how quickly it takes it to get like flagged and like detected.
Yeah.
Like one of the most iconic pieces of music in history. See, like we'll just play like, "Bup," and it's just like boom, auto flag, one strike.
Yeah. I meant to mention before too, since like I brought up the guys on horseback, how this is something that you get in a lot in like any of his action movies, but like, man, when people fall off horses, they fall.
They eat shit.
Yeah. Like, I felt like you saw a couple dudes like bounce.
There was like, the scene when Toshiro Mifune, when they kind of come up on those riders and then they leave and then they come back, when like he's chasing them off on horseback or whatever. There's a dude who takes a tumble.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh god damn,
Yeah.
that dude hit the ground on his back hard.
Yeah. No, I don't have. Speaking of hard.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. Here's an ad break. Wait. No, never mind. I was gonna do something, but never mind. Okay, are we back?
Yeah, I'm thinking we're back.
Okay.
So you watched some propaganda.
Yeah, basically. I am. I don't know if I said it on this. I'm a substitute teacher, and the other day I was substituting. I was actually substituting for something else, but I had to fill in for a 4th grade class, and for a couple hours. And all I did was I showed them this video that it's called Our Friend Martin, and it's about like Martin Luther King Jr. It's made like for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That's why I watched it. It's from like the 90s. I think 1999 is what it says. And yeah, it's about these two like high schoolers from the 90s who go back in time and visit. It's very the premise is very Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because it's like the main kid is like he's gonna like fail and have to like repeat his grade unless he like passes this report. So he goes back in time and like talks to the actual person that it's about, and then uses that to like pass the grade. And that's like literally like the plot of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, is like they're gonna fail like their history class or something, and they go back in time to help them out. And yeah, so the main kids, and I'm gonna mention like everyone's race because it is very important to the short. So the main kid is black, his best friend is white, and then there's two other I guess more mainish characters. They become like the supporting characters. Who's like one of them's like the school bully. He's another white kid, and then there's like the class. She's like the smartest person in class. And she's like this Mexican girl, and but first it's just the two main kids. They go back in time, and then they basically jump to different points in Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. Like he's a kid, and then it's like a few years later when he's like going off to college or something like that, and then it's a few years later when he's about to do his March on Washington speech. Mm-hmm. So like a couple like kind of varying degrees of like importance in his life, and then they go back to the present, and then they want to go back again like the next day, and then they get trailed by the Mexican girl and the white kid, the bully, and so those two join them the second time they go in, and then the main kid, he's like, oh, I want to show Martin what he's done for, I want to, he dies before anything really happens, so I want to take him to the future and show him like how much good he's done. I want him to see his influence, so he can see that before he dies. So he grabs his hand, and then he's like, okay, we're going back to the present. But the logic in this is that like by pulling him out of the past, like none of because he pulls him when Martin Luther's like a kid, like when he's like his age, so he's like 12 or something like that, so it's before he did anything. And the logic of this is by pulling him out of the past, basically like he disappeared from the timeline. So like nothing, he didn't do anything that Martin Luther King Jr. did. And basically like segregation still exists, and he goes back to his school, and his best friend, his white best friend, like is like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. Like we don't want your kind here, that kind of shit. And then like his teacher, who in the original timeline was like a kind of cool teacher, she wore just like cool clothes, and she had like big like frizzly hair and stuff. Yeah. Now she's like wearing like old maid like secretary clothes, and she has her ponytail back. I'm like, wait, does that mean that like she was appropriating black culture before or something? Like
she was Dolezal.
What? Yeah. What is that? What is that implying? That she's like now more prim and proper because like blacks weren't allowed to integrate, and then the Mexican girl is she's now a janitor with her mom, and she doesn't speak English.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's tough. She's like, Martin, you got pulled from the timeline. NPR doesn't exist for me to like dress and base my personality on, so now I have to be an old midwife.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's I said like I guess well intentioned, but holy shit. Like holy shit. It's
well, and like if you look at the voice cast, there's like Dexter King, one of Martin Luther King's sons, is like attached to it.
Oh yeah, he voices him one of the periods. Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg, Samuel L. Jackson, James Earl Jones, John Travolta.
Yeah.
That John Travolta being in this, that sounds like some sort of like you got caught drunk driving, and this is your community service, is you have to voice a character in like an MLK cartoon for kids.
Yeah.
Susan Sarandon, Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Richard Kind. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, Urkel. Urkel's in it too.
Yeah,
MLK
yeah.
age
That's
15.
Right. He's another one of the Yeah, and then so it ends with him taking him back to his own timeline so that he can be assassinated by the FBI, and then the world can be all right. It's.
But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that part.
It's just I don't know, just so like ignorant and naive. It was like I was just sitting there in class like, as a substitute, what can I do? It's not like I can, if I do anything right, they're gonna be like, okay, well, you can't be a substitute, or like,
yeah,
I'm at
you
least
can't
gonna
really
get,
like
not very, I don't have much freedom with like what I can do, so I just gotta sit there and watch these little kids be indoctrinated.
yeah,
And be like, yeah, everything's okay. Racism doesn't exist anymore.
yeah. We fixed it. We brought Martin Luther King Jr. back to his own timeline. We got it.
The world is great because this like good guy was killed.
Yeah.
So
Only good things can happen through martyrdom and assassinations.
Yeah.
You just go to the whiteboard and like right after the movie and you grab like the marker and you just write COINTEL Pro. This is like the program that the CIA used.
Yeah.
Like they sent him letters telling him to kill himself.
So yeah, also that it's implying that no other civil rights leader, Malcolm X didn't do anything. He didn't matter. Rosa Parks, who's even in this, didn't matter. Fred Hampton, he didn't do anything.
Yeah. Wait, is Fred Hampton in this? Is he?
No. Rosa Parks is the only other one who's in it. But I'm saying like by showing that like Martin Luther King didn't do anything. It's just like, okay, so none of these there was no civil rights act or movement without him. There weren't any other significant figures, I guess.
Well, and this kind of happens every like MLK Day, where like the most like I guess palatable MLK quotes come out from people that I think would ideologically oppose him and like his more radical thoughts. Because I mean, MLK definitely did have like that sort of radical instinct in him. His methodology was just much more, peaceful protest.
Right.
Where like, Fred Hampton and Malcolm X were more like direct action, violence meets violence. This is just,
that's
it
probably
sucks,
why
but,
they weren't. Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, you're not going to see movies about them because they were like way more about like class consciousness and revolutions and uprisings and like, taking it.
I mean, like, I remember as a kid being told or like thinking like, oh yeah, Malcolm X, he's one of the good ones. Or no, I'm sorry, Martin Luther King Jr. It's like I remember thinking that like, or being told that like the Black Panthers and Malcolm X were like violent. They were like not good. They had guns. So that meant they were bad, and it's like just totally not. Addressing the point of like why they took guns to protest, or like why they like protested or did like operated how they did.
Yeah, and this movie is 99, so it's like we're still not too far off from like I guess Cold War, Soviet Russia, communism. So it's like that is still very much on the mind of like the leaders in America, because it seems like that is like the number one thing that they are afraid of, and the number one thing that they will like do whatever it takes possible to squash it, including funding Al-Qaeda, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, your enemies are the Russians, so here's some guns. Have at it. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this BK Kids Lounge artwork on this VHS tape, too.
Totally. And then it ends after taking him, back to his own timeline. It ends with, like, this sappy-ass montage of, like, oh, look at black people and white people painting over graffiti together and, putting up, like, building foundation, like, doing construction together and, like...
Oh.
I don't know. Painting a rainbow on the side of a school or something like that. I went to it. I'm having it
pulling
up right
your
now.
pants up, like that's like some Bill Cosby, like pull your pants up type shit.
That would have been fucking great if Bill Cosby was in this. Yeah, literally like American flag in the background with like a handshake with a white and a black hand. Like,
yeah,
that's part of the end of this. Ooh, an Asian doctor. Oh, It's just like it's the most like sappy like cliche like 90s era
Yeah.
bullshit like that. Ugh. I guess that's it. Don't watch it. Unless you want to get mad. It sucks. It's stupid.
Yeah. All right. We watched a movie last night. It was a real bummer. Have you seen this before? Before the Devil That Knows You're Dead?
Nope. It's another one like Hidden Fortress that I've owned for probably a decade. Just never watched.
Oh, really? Like you own a copy of it?
And that's probably why, because I will say this is, I do. This is also in the cup. So
oh, shit. All right.
I think I probably did that. I went when I was doing my suggestions, I went through like my DVD collection and was like, what are these ones that I've had for forever and never checked out? And it's always been on my list because it's the last. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, is it Lumet or Lumet? On Wikipedia, there's all caps MET, like Met, Sidney Lumet.
I've heard Lumet.
Lumet?
Yeah. I still say Lumet because it seems right to me, but
yeah. So it's his last film.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty star-studded cast, or at least the three leads are Philip Seymour Hoffman, Ethan Hawke, Marisa Tomei, Albert Finney. I guess he's kind of like an older Hollywood kind of guy who's in a lot of stuff.
He was he worked with Sydney a lot too.
Oh, okay.
Or at least I don't know about a lot, but he was in like Murder on the Orient Express and shit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So do you know the premise of it at all? I'll try to not.
It's like a heist movie or something like that. It's like, and like I know Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman are like brothers, and
so basically, basic plot points. It's a heist movie, but it's like they're like, oh, it's a victimless crime. We'll rob our parents' jewelry store.
Okay. I didn't
where
know that.
It's like, the insurance will cover them. They'll be good. We'll get the money. Everybody, it's a victimless crime. And then shit just goes wrong. And then it's just kind of a downhill, their lives are kind of falling apart in the aftermath of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also very, it's stylistic in some cool ways and in some very strange ways. Like, I think visually there's like some scenes that just seem blown out. Like the, I can't think of it now. The exposure. It's just like very bright and interest. I don't know why, but there's like some, cause it does it like non-linearly. So you'll see like Andy 3 days before the robbery, Hank after the robbery, their dad 1 day after the robbery. But it kind of does this. It kind of does this cool like, it'll like kind of freeze frame, and it'll be like shook, and it like kind of it'll be two images that like kind of flash back and forth, and then it just cuts to a new scene.
Okay,
it's kind of jarring, but then after it happens a few times, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get what he's going for here. Philip Seymour Hoffman is pretty great. It starts out with a sex scene, so you just get to see Philip Seymour Hoffman's ass like right off the bat.
Sweet,
cool. I would say the weakest link in this movie is Marisa Tomei. She there's one scene in particular where it was like soap opera level acting, where it almost looked like she was like. It almost looked like she was green screened in. It just seemed very stilted and awkward and weird. And also, she's like topless in like 3/4 of this movie. Like, she's like in bed with characters like a lot. And you're like, oh, okay. It is kind of funny that you get two Aunt Mays in this movie. In Spider-Man.
Is the like Tobey Maguire one in it too?
Uh-huh.
That anime. That's funny.
Yeah. She's their mom that like owns the jewelry store with Albert Finney.
Okay.
But we were watching it, and I was like, because I've seen her before. And then I looked it up. Oh yeah, she's Aunt May from Spider-Man. And then I was like, oh, Marissa Tomei is like Aunt May in the Avengers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The young milfy Aunt May.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, as a heist movie, it was kind of interesting to see like the more, because I think in most heist movies, it's just kind of like you get the heist, but this is like the before and the after,
Almost
like how
like
it affects
like a Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that it was like non-linear seemed very like Tarantino-y as well. That that being said, what was I gonna say about it? Like, I gave it like 3 stars on Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
There were some elements that were cool. Some of it was like very strange. God, why do I feel like I had something else that I wanted to say about this and I just can't? I can't think of it. It was mostly okay.
Yeah. Okay. I was curious why it was. I mean, I guess I've heard like mixed things. Like, it's not one that people love, but I have heard some people say like really glowing things about it. And as a now I don't feel comfortable saying his name how I always say his name. But as a, Sidney Lumet stan, he's another one of like the all-timers for me, up there with Kurosawa. It's, I obviously want to see it for that reason, it being his last movie, but also two like of my favorite actors in the lead too is very appealing.
This is a fun fact, and this is on the Wikipedia article. Sidney knew that Philip Seymour Hoffman was going to have more difficulty with the opening sex scene than Marissa Tomei. I don't think Philip has ever conceived of himself in the nude fucking on screen. It's just not something that comes his way. So when we started blocking, Marissa hopped up on the bed, got on her hands and knees, slapped her ass, and said, "Come on, Philly, let's go." I could kiss her, because if Philip had any inhibitions, they were gone. So maybe this movie exists because the power of Marissa Tomei's ass.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not that surprising that you said she was so weak, but because maybe she is kind of one of those hit and miss ones. Because she's good in stuff, but
yeah.
I guess maybe.
Michael Shannon is in it.
Nice.
He's fun.
It's another one that I like too. Another guy that I like. That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I'll be curious to watch it again more analytically if it comes up in duds.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think the only other movie of his that I've seen is like 12 Angry Men.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah.
I have a.
I mean, I could check, but I think
I have a couple
that's
of his in there. I mean, other big ones are like Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon.
That's right. Yeah.
Network, which I know.
Yeah,
I
want to see Network.
Network is fantastic.
Is that the movie that has the famous like "I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore"? Hell yeah.
And
I want to see it.
It's great. It's yeah, it's so great. Yeah. I mostly, I don't think I've seen anything of his past the 70s, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm much more familiar with someone like Kurosawa. Like I have a broader, like knowledge of their library. But him, I've mostly seen like his earlier stuff.
Like the classics, if you will.
Yeah. But he has a few later that like Q&A, The Verdict I really want to see. So there are a few later on that are interesting, but yeah. And then we both saw a new movie.
Yes. Yes.
That kind of previewed last week. the new Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Puss in Boots 2. I saw it. I think we both probably. I think as like a lot of people more recently, it's like. I'm assuming you probably had the same sort of like journey with it as me of like there's a new Puss in Boots coming out announced. I don't give a shit. Who cares? It's another like a sequel spin-off. Oh yeah, shoot, I forgot. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to balance them, but there.
I didn't even notice he was missing from the background.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to keep him there. But you mentioned that, and then I forgot. This is right next to him.
Oh.
I don't think this is gonna work.
Oh, he got a dumper.
Yeah, this is Fat Puss in Boots from Shrek 3, or maybe it's Shrek 4.
Does he get fat in one of them?
Yeah, he does.
Oh my god.
We'll just have him up there.
That's hell yeah.
Yeah, like anyways, sequel spin-off to a franchise that ended like 10 years ago. It's like,
yeah, you're like,
I don't care. And then it comes out.
Who wanted this?
Yeah, it's like just not on my radar at all. And then you just, it's got really super good reviews like everywhere. Like everybody's saying it's great. And then I watch it and it's great.
Yep.
It was a good replacement for, so we went and saw it on our anniversary, and kind of in the vein of because we watched the Paddington, we saw like both of those in theaters on our anniversary, and I will say, in lieu of Paddington 3, a pretty good replacement, I think.
Yeah.
And then I saw it a few days later again with Ethan and his kid.
Nice.
And I bumped my score up to a 5 out of 5.
Shit.
I think this movie's I think this movie's a fucking masterpiece. Like if I was being really like, nitpicky, like, yeah, maybe it's like a 9.5 if we're going like off a dud scale. I don't know. It might not be like a perfect 10 out of 10, but yeah, I like any sort of. I had some minor complaints the first time. Like I was like, oh, this bit stretches a little bit or whatever. But the second time I was like, nope, these are like minor issues. I don't care. This movie fucking rules. In my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it works as its own standalone movie. Like it's, I'm not like, oh yeah, this is part of the Shrek extended universe.
Yeah, the Shrek extended universe.
Which like you do get, you do get like those Shrek characters that kind of make little
cameos,
appearances.
Yeah.
Like you see the gingerbread man, you see Pinocchio. I think you even see Shrek and Donkey very briefly
in like the flashback when he's having
a flashback. Like they kind of have it's almost like a Lion King, like on the log.
Oh yeah,
like
that's
the three
right.
of them walking together, and then it's like that's all you really get.
Yeah.
So you get those tastes, but it totally works as its own movie. And we kind of talked about it a little bit last week after we both kind of saw it. The introduction of the death wolf character is like. Rules. Such a good villain.
Yeah.
Like the haunting presence of that character throughout the entire thing. Like, he kind of comes in and out and in and out. Like he doesn't outright kill Puss, but he's having fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like right when Puss is like kind of feeling himself again, because like in the beginning he like runs out of lives, and so he basically he gets sent, or he voluntarily goes to like a rescue.
Yeah, a cat rescue. Yeah.
And he becomes Pickles.
Yeah. So he's like, he's a cat. He's lost 8 of his 9 lives. And this character that you don't know until the very end of the movie. Well, no, not the very end. He reveals it in like kind of the midpoint. That is revealed to be Death, is stalking him because he's like basically squandered his 8 of his 9 lives because Puss in Boots laughs in the face of Death. He's like making a mockery of Death, so and he's taking it very personally. So he's like, I think Puss says something like, he's like, but I'm not dead yet, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I don't think cats should get 9 lives anyways. And since you didn't care about the other ones, I'm just gonna take this one now. And yeah, I think like just every fucking second that character's on screen is electric. I think
Mm-hmm.
he is. I think when I first saw it, like in my head, I was kind of categorizing it as like, oh, as far as animated movies, this. I'm like, no, I think as far as movies go, I think he's one of the best villains I've seen in a long time, maybe ever. I literally think he's like one of the greatest. Like, there could be a little bit of recency bias here, but I think just the voice acting, the character design, the sound design, it's every single element around that character is just, it's absolutely perfect. It is amazing how well they just nailed the, like, he just shows up and he just seems like a bounty hunter after Puss in Boots, just like a regular guy, and then he cuts him, and you get that scene where it's like that flash of red, and like you see his eyes, and then Puss, and there's like the blood streaking down his face, and like when they actually like showed blood down his face, and then he gets the, his hair stands up, and I was like, holy shit. I like
there's like actual stakes.
You actually feel like, I don't know, I was like, you kind of lean towards, okay, they're probably not going to kill the main character, right? But like, man, it really kind of puts you on edge for like a lot of the scenes he's in. And yeah, it's just like such a perfect way to like depict like the fear that he puts into Booth, that like, later on they like steal the map from Jack Horner, and then he puts like, there's like all the gold in the back of the cart, and he like kicks it off and gives it to the people of that city, and he's like being cocky again. He's like, all right, please accept this gift from Puss in Boots, and he's like laughing again, and then he hears the whistle and he's like, boop, and all confidence is just gone instantly. Like anytime he shows any sort of like bravado anymore, the wolf is there to shut him up. Yeah,
and especially the one scene where I think it's he gets out of the cave, and he's maybe it's before the cave, I'm not sure, but it's like the scene where he's like kind of running, and as each tree passes, you'll see death, and then it'll just be like, oh, it was just some branches that took the shape of him that kind of looked like him. Like it's kind of like that blink and you miss it, like he's there and then he's gone. Like like he's everywhere. And then you showed me that one clip where you can even see him in the crowd
at the beginning.
It's that's so unsettling.
So definitely my favorite part is death. His intro is amazing. I love their final fight too. It's like, it's such a like, I don't know, like when he it's just like such a classic like cool guy hero move when he goes for the killing blow. Puss pulls out the like little knife that Kitty gives him, and he like uses the momentum to like swing around, and he picks up his hat first. I love that he like grabs his hat.
Eyes on the prize.
And then like that ending where he like, he gets him. He actually he connects. He makes some hits, because like before he can't even touch the wolf, but he connects, and then he makes him drop his thing, and he kicks it back to him, and he's like, pick it up. And I was
it's
fuck yeah, like it's so it's such a like fist pump moment. It's so good.
He gets his mojo back. And that final boss fight, it made me think of the Ganondorf Wind Waker fight. Because I think Ganondorf has like those two similar weapons, and it's like engulfed in shit around him,
barrier. But beyond that, I think obviously it goes without saying, like the animation is just gorgeous. I think it looks amazing. The coloring, the like almost like half hand painted look to it or something like that. Looks really cool.
I haven't seen it, but I feel like action sequences were very Into the Spider-Verse-y. Like that sort of, it almost feels like a low frame rate. It's got like those like lines, and it's like when they move, it almost looks like slightly 2D whenever characters move around like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen clips or previews of like Into the Spider-Verse or No Way Home or whichever one of those like big animated ones. It
Spider-Verse
seems in that similar vein.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels like it took inspiration from that for sure. And that's cool with me. I think like if
I
like it a lot more than just your generic CG
like
look.
DreamWorks, kind of what they usually put out.
Yeah.
No shade, but it's all kind of, I don't know. I feel like after like Pixar is kind of like the leader of the pack in terms of like children's animation, and everything else is just like trying to like not ape the styles exactly, but kind of get in that orbit. And so like all of these kind of like children's cartoons have a sort of homogenous, like all just kind of look the same a little bit.
Yeah,
especially with their like human characters, I would say.
Yeah, I'd much. I mean, even compared to Pixar, which like you said, I would say as far as like CG is probably like the leading. Like this looks better than any like Pixar movie, pretty much. Just like because it doesn't look. Yeah, it's CG at this point, like your standard CG. It's just generic at this point.
Which is like, I don't know, maybe I'm not in the right mindset, which is like kind of why I couldn't get into like the Avatar hype, because it's like, it's CGI like everything else.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, same. I still haven't seen it, and probably if I don't see it in theaters, I don't know if I'll ever see it. I don't know. It is just such a like whatever. It's so weird to me that those movies are as popular as they are. I don't like a blockbuster, sure, but like the level of blockbuster that they are doesn't make sense to me. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, I think we're on the opposite end of a very like kind of irony poisoned culture, where I think that was like the dominant thing for a long time, and now I think we're on the other end where like sincerity and shit rocking is like,
I see what you mean. We came back to like those 2000 blockbusters.
And so like people who might have been cynical about like Avatar back then are like, actually no, this rocks and movies are cool and I love those blue guys. Like I feel like we're on the opposite end of like a very like cynical, ironic bend.
Maybe James Cameron was just like finger on the pulse, like he knew, like that's why this took so long. He's like, nah, we can't. Donald Trump just got elected, and people aren't ready to have fun yet.
We didn't even talk about the best character, which was the Jimmy Stewart.
Oh yeah, right.
Cricket. Yeah, that was in that movie just for us. No child.
Yeah, no child.
Unless it's like an extremely like nerdy gifted kid who has a weird thing for 1940s and 50s film with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to imagine a toddler. It's like, oh yeah, the guy from Harvey.
Yeah, maybe It's a Wonderful Life. Maybe,
yeah.
That or like there's Terminator 2 reference that we talked about. There's I didn't even clock this one until the second time I saw it, but they do what I'm pretty sure is a Wicker Man reference. Because there's the part where the bears try to set a trap for Kitty. And they like have like a big bear trap, and then there's like a beehive above it, because they're thinking like them, like they're thinking, oh, they're gonna be
not
attracted
the bees.
And they say not the bees, because it like drops on one of them, and good voice cast all around too. Like Antonio Banderas is great. I love his voice for something as like cute as Puss right? Like every facial expression and way that they make Puss looks, he's so fucking cute. And then you have like, it is me, Puss in Boots. Even like the dog, Perito.
Oh, Harvey Guillen.
Yeah.
Who is, I know him from What We Do in the Shadows. He is Guillermo, the familiar.
I think he, like, you see him at first and you're like, this is like the sidekick comedic relief that's in every kids animated movie that's just fucking annoying as shit, and you hate him, but he pulls it off. I think, like, he is that, like, hyper, but you don't hate him, and like he has those moments, like when he puts his head on Puss's chest when he's having that panic attack. Oh man.
We were in the theater.
I wasn't ready for such a sudden like tear up.
Yep.
But like, man,
we were in the theater with like a bunch of like kind of like Zoomer aged kids, and like we're like the only people over 30 in there, and like that scene happened, and I just like Chloe next to me was just like, it was just like, oh shit, that just like very like big sincerity out of nowhere. Like, you're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, and then I even kind of got that way at the end with just to show how well the characters are written, is like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. They have their whole thing where like they're a family, but it turns out that she wants to wish for like what a real family. Like she basically wants her real parents back. And then their resolution is that she's like, you guys are my family. That's all I need.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's really sweet. That also kind of got me a little bit. And yeah, I like that there's. I love when a movie can handle multiple villains, and I like that. Two out of three of them are going for the same goal, but they all want it for different reasons and like kind of different outcomes. Like Jack Horner's like he's the psychopath, and he just wants it to do the bad guy thing. I want to take over. I want to win. And
when he was just drilling people with the unicorn horns and like killing them, I was like,
he's just like,
sorry. That's like pretty violent. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the
and then
guy
like the one is dangling.
I was talking about the plants.
Oh yeah, there's just like a skeleton.
Yeah.
And then there's like the guy that's like dangling, and he's like, "Are you a talker?"
Yeah, that's right.
Like that's how he determined if he was gonna save them or not.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, that was like another really cool thing. Was like how the map changed depending on who was holding it, and like everyone else who wanted it for like selfish reasons. I mean, selfish.
Sure.
You know, it was just like the swamp of misery, the cave of like nostalgia. But then it's like the dog gets it, and it's just like, oh, the lullaby flower field.
Yeah. It's supposed to like
because he's like pure of heart, basically.
Yeah, it's like it's supposed to, it like mirrors your soul or whatever, or mirrors your like. So that's why Puss has the Cave of Lost Souls, because
yeah.
And then Goldie has the nostalgia, like the mountain, forest of nostalgia, because she wants what she, what she lost.
It made me. It made me think of like the shimmer from Annihilation when they first go through.
Oh, how it
and it's like that like weird like glossy rainbowish kind of color.
Yeah.
Cool movie.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Like with Paddington 2, I wasn't quite. I mean, I guess I was surprised with how much I like it, and I will say like I still hold that to a higher degree. But like this, I was just like I don't understand. I couldn't even with how much like glowing praise it was getting. I was like I don't understand how this is like this good. There's it's how it's so, but
yeah. And then it ends with a possible
Shrek
tie-in. Yeah, so
I could take that as just like just just being like on to other things, but check it out if you haven't.
Go see Puss in Boots.
And then once that, you can check out next week's movie.
The next movie. Before the devil knows you're dead.
I really want that to happen one of these days. Is like we
It's
talk
gotta.
about something.
Oh.
It's another one with subtitles.
Oh no.
From Asia, but at least it's from this century.
Okay.
Oh no.
Oh
well,
no.
we were done talking about him, I guess. He had to.
Yeah.
And another repeat director. Another one of my favorite directors.
Okay.
From 2006, directed by Bong Joon-ho. We're gonna watch The Host.
Sick.
Indeed.
That's like how many of his movies have we done on here now?
I think this is the third.
We did Barking Dogs,
Memories of Murder,
and The Host.
Yeah.
Shit, yeah.
Um,
Him and Kurosawa, and I guess Jimmy Stewart, even though he's not a director.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as far as directors, him
The
and
Duds
Kurosawa
canon.
might be yeah. Which it's so weird.
Cool.
Like there's so many movies in there, and sure, I have a few of their movies, but it's weird that we've had so many repeats already. Like we're gonna run out of these before we even get through like half of them. Yeah. So far, we are doing Bong Joon-ho's movies in order, like in chronological order. Let's see if we can continue. I don't know if I have.
That's funny.
Actually, this might be the only other one that's in there. This might be the last one that's in the cup of his.
Oh, really?
I think I put Parasite in, but then I pulled it. I pulled some of mine, some like random ones of mine out that like I knew we'd all seen, to kind of like thin out my influence in the cup, I guess, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
But I like saved them, so like I don't know. Eventually, I'll add them back in, but yeah, that's funny that that it's all in order. Okay. The Host is available on. It looks like it says it's with premium subscriptions for like YouTube, Amazon Prime, but it's also for rent on Redbox, Vudu, Apple TV. So watch it there on one of those if you don't want to be spoiled for it before next week's episode. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on Twitch and YouTube in video form, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So give those a follow if you like. Bring up the activity on the YouTube too. Feel like interacting. We're gonna try increasing
watch
our
this
output.
space. Yeah.
That's the one that we're kind of trying to guide people towards more now, because we're
video podcasts are in. I feel like that's no one listens, they watch now.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is weird because like I wouldn't.
I mean, I'll do it too sometimes, but
once
primarily
in a while. Yeah. Or there's sometimes where like I'll be listening to a podcast and then like something happen, or like I hear something, like, okay, I'm gonna watch that part of the episode.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Like that. I look it up for that, but yeah, normally. But we're not. No, you should watch this. Yes, you should watch the video. We're not trying to. We're not trying to. You know.
We're just old.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're also gonna. We're still kind of figuring it out, but trying to put out some more videos that may be more like YouTube exclusives. Like side short things, short reviews, or something.
Extended discussions, or maybe more focused discussions. Yeah.
So, yeah. And with all that said, I'm mixing this with something else. I'm not sure if you know what I'm referencing. Actually, no, I think I told you about it. So I am your shitworm peasant that got the gold. Give me the gold. I want the gold. TJ, aka J Spot Jack Cheese, with me as always.
Oh man, as always, I am your I'm your big daddy himbo.
Nice.
And I'm gonna transport you, Princess Nick, aka Dr. Funk on Twitch.
Nice. All right. Bye bye.